Then answered the Yehudim and said unto him, Say we not well that thou art a Samaritan and hast a devil? Well, that is what some of the perpetrators that were targeting Master Yahushua accused him of. We know that is, defamation of character, maligning someone's character. That is a tactic known as gaslighting. And just continuing where we left off, this is looking at the most noblest and honorable targeted individuals or empowered individuals in the scriptures. And I say to have ever walked the earth, and that is the Messiah, Yahushua, who the world mistakenly calls Jesus Christ. But he was targeted, and if you listen to the previous episode 12, then you know that we ended that episode just starting to really look at some of the passages in the four Gospels that where it really just lays out very clearly how the various chief priests and scribes, how they literally put their heads together, and some of the phrases, it literally says how they took counsel, okay, or how they communed, on how they could destroy him, how they could kill him, literally. And we know that as targeted individuals or victims of gang-stalking, that at some point, in order for this campaign against us, to have, gotten off the ground, at some point they did. That's what happened to us. That's what happened to me. That's what happened to you. A group of people literally got together, literally communed, and decided, that they were going to, do this to me, stalk me, stalk you. They, had people watching you. They knew your routes to work, your car, license number, where you worked, phone number. You were able to hack into your computer, get all your vital statistics, and do a little, like I say, like maybe a little PowerPoint presentation. Explain who your family members were, which family members could easily be turned, to withdraw their support, which ones could be turned to even co-sign what was happening, depending on how they gaslight you, how they say, what they could say that would make that happen. Literally, they did this. What habits you have, what flaws you have in your character that they could use to work against you. Do you have an alcohol problem? Are you easily, are you someone that can't keep your pants up? Are you someone that can't keep your skirt down? Maybe you're into money. Anything. Did you have a juvenile record? These, again, looking at that definition of what gang-stalking is, that it is a very well-organized, constructed, relentless attack that is perpetrated by individuals within a community, within a society. The perpetrators and victims can be of either gender, from any race, any culture, any political affiliation, any religion, any part of the country, any part of the world, any socioeconomic class. It does not matter. It's across the board. That is, I hate to say it this way, but that is one activity that is definitely, we can say it is definitely, an equal opportunity, employer, okay? But what we're looking at is how this is something that didn't just start, when Obama became president. It didn't start when George W. Bush was in the White House. It didn't just start when Trump, got into office. This is something that has been going on for centuries. Sometimes I say that it's been going on since the flood. Sometimes, I wonder if it's not something that, didn't start with, since the beginning of time, where different individuals have been able to use this as a form of control, as a form of torture, touchless torture, as a form of punishment. We know that that many of the victims, we tend to be intelligent, we tend to be creative, highly inquisitive, We will question authority. We will stand up to authority. Many of us are natural born leaders. People are drawn to us. People will listen to us. We have a lot of talents. We have a lot of abilities, and this is threatening to different people depending on what area you're looking at. And in looking here at our master, our king, Yahushua HaMashiach, Yahushua the Messiah, we know that he was the Son of the Most High. He came to liberate, literally, the house of Jacob. So that leadership quality was inherent in him. And he began to do just what he said he was going to do, to set the captives free. And he began to do so. And, of course, the Pharisees, the high priest, that ruling class, they were threatened. They were offended because he also shined the spotlight on them. And so the scripture that I was reading was, I look at that as a form of gaslighting, and we know that that's a tactic that they use. They use other tactics as well. And I spoke about this at the beginning of episode 12 of this is a podcast. Now we're in episode 13, and the podcast is called This Fiery Trial, and I am Zipporah. I am the artistic editor, the layout editor, the editor-in-chief of artisticministry.net, and I thank you for joining me, and I hope that you have been listening to all of the episodes. And for those of you who have, I thank you, and I hope that I'm able to inspire you. What I've been doing in the previous episodes, I've been sharing my experiences. Now I'm sharing different parts of the scriptures that has helped me and given me strength and courage to keep walking on this road, and looking at the life of my master and king, Yahushua. And so we know that he definitely was a targeted individual, and that he did not buckle. He did not fall by the wayside. He did not abandon the assignment that was given to him. He followed through on it. But he was definitely a victim of gaslighting, and we know this because, again, just follow it through his life, all the way to even to them standing around that stake that he was nailed to on the hilltop of Golgotha, and how they continue to heckle him even there, and defame him and decry him even there. But looking at this passage that I just read, that was in the book of John, chapter 8, verse 48. Let me read it again. Then answered the Yehudim and said unto him, Say we not well that thou art a Samaritan and hast a devil? Now, when we that's an insult. And if you know anything about the Hebrew Israelite people, something that I started to really study, once learning the truth about, my real ethnicity, that African Americans are those of us who are descendants of the African slave trade, which was actually the Hebrew slave trade, that many of us are of the tribe of Judah, as foretold in the scriptures, that we will be scattered to the four corners of the earth through slavery. And looking at other verses that definitely confirm who we are. So one of the things that I just started learning the history of the ancient Hebrew Israelites, and one of the things that I got to really study on was the people in that area of what is now today modern day Palestine. During the time of the Messiah, it was the kingdom of Judea, the land of Judea, and we know that they were sharing that land with a few different nations. One of them were the Samaritans, and we know that there was definitely like tension and competition and like prejudice and hatred between those two groups. And when we look in the book, there's a book called The Antiquities of the Jews, written by a man, his Roman name was Flavius Josephus. But he, it's just the history of of my ancestors, and one of the parts in it, if you look in book 9, starting at verse 14, it speaks about the conquering of the northern kingdom, Israel, by the Assyrians, and how they literally moved them out. And that's how you got it's a well-known phrase, the 10 lost tribes. Basically, they were moved out of the area, and there was another people that was brought in. And so we're going to read here these people, what we know about them from Antiquities of the Jews. And this is chapter 14, looking at verse 3. But now the Kuthians, who removed into Samaria, for that is the name they have been called by to this time, because they were brought out of the country called Cutha, which is a country of Persia, and there is a river of the same name in it. Each of them, according to their own nations, which were in number 5, brought their own gods into Samaria. So they brought 5 gods with them. There were 5 nations rather, and by worshiping them, as was the custom of their own countries, they provoked Almighty Elohim to be angry and displeased at them, for a plague seized upon them by which they were destroyed. And when they found no cure for their miseries, they learned by the oracle that they ought to worship Almighty Elohim as the method for their deliverance. So they sent ambassadors to the king of Assyria and desired him to send them some of those priests of the Israelites whom he had taken captive. And when he thereupon sent them, and the people were by them taught the law and the holy worship of Elohim, they worshipped him in a respectful manner, and the plague ceased immediately. And indeed, they continue to make use of the very same customs to this very time, and are called in the Hebrew tongue Kuthians, but in the Greek Samaritans. And when they see the Yehudim in prosperity, they pretend that they are changed and allied to them, and call them kinsmen, as though they were derived from Joseph, and had by that means an original alliance with them. But when they see them, the Yehudim, falling into a low condition, they say they are no way related to them, and that the Yehudim have no right to expect any kindness or marks of kindred from them, but they declare that they are sojourners that come from other countries. Okay, so basically you have a people who were taught the law of Moses in order to literally survive in the land. And keeping the law of Moses, if you read through it, you know that there were laws around planting, around agriculture, around, how to, herding. Basically, they had developed an equilibrium with the environment. They had, and of course, and this was all in keeping, to please the Most High. And so now there were people there who weren't doing it. They suffered a severe plague, but in learning the law of Moses, they were rescued from it. They were delivered from that, and they became so enamored with it that they began to, as he said, over time they began to view themselves as being Hebrew Israelites, as being descended from Joseph. And so by the time we read the New Testament in the Gospels, we know that they have built a temple for themselves in an area called Mount Gerizim. They had their priesthood. They had a copy of the scrolls. They really were literally, believing that they were actually descendants of the house of Jacob. And we see that to this day. The people that the world, views as Jews, which they call the Jewish people, they really do believe that, they are actually from the house of Jacob, even though in their own literature, in their own encyclopedias and such, they talk about their conversion during the Middle Ages. But if you don't know that, well, then you don't know, and you believe that. But during the time of the Messiah, there was such a tension and a prejudice and a rift between those two that to call a Hebrew Israelite, a Judean, a Samaritan, you were really insulting them. That was something that you could be offended by. And so that's basically what they were doing to him. And then to, add insult to injury, what did they say? And hast a devil. And here our Messiah was liberating people from demonic possession, literally setting the captives free, and they tossed this insult on him. But that was, just one of them. Again, like I said, I had read, several different passages that shows how they targeted him. So, if you were to say to someone, well, this gang stalking that's going on, this goes back all the way back to the Bible days. In fact, they targeted and stalked the Messiah. And if someone were to say, oh, come on, I think you're being a bit too, you're exaggerating that a little too much, and you would literally be able to say, no, that's not true. And you could turn to, let's see, here's one. Let's go back into the book of Luke. You could turn to, let's say, Luke 22. No, let's try Luke 20. Let's start with Luke chapter 20. And let's look at a verse there and see what we have. Luke chapter 20, and see what we have here. Oh, here we go. And they watched him and sent forth spies, which should feign themselves just men, that they might take hold of his words, that so they might deliver him unto the power and authority of the governor. Okay, so here now this has gotten a lot more serious now. Before, you could say, well, they were just trying to, maybe, cast him in a bad light so that people wouldn't, follow him. But now they're looking at now bringing him down in a serious way, but being able to, as it says again, deliver him unto the power and authority of the governor. And this is where, in our times, this is where, individuals who are being targeted, this is where they're talking about, setting you up to get arrested and put in jail, maybe even prison, possibly even, to get shot and killed. That's what this is about. But look at this. They watched him. So they were stalking him. Okay? They watched him and sent forth spies. And we know about that. This is where, you have these people who are coming up to befriend you, wearing a mask, trying to get close so they can find out, some dirt on you, see what some of your flaws are, what are your weaknesses, who are your enemies, who is it that you don't like, so maybe we can, they can, go around when you're not looking and hang out with that person that you don't like and set you up, just doing that, as a way to infiltrate. It says, and sent forth spies which should feign themselves just men. So that lets you know right there, they were wicked. This is what Luke is saying. These were wicked men who were pretending to be righteous. Okay, pretending to be righteous, and that they might take hold of his words. Okay, and that's just really insidious, because we know that one of the declarations that the Messiah said was that his words are life. He came to give us his words, his teachings, eternal life, and they were wanting to take that and twist it and use it against him. Okay, let's look at another one. That's and it gets even deeper, because they turned up the heat. And look at what we have in chapter 22. And the chief priests and scribes sought how they might kill him. So now they ain't playing no more. They ain't pretending. They forget the governor, forget getting him under the power of the governor of the government. They're going to kill him. Okay, and the chief priest and scribe sought how they might kill him, for they feared the people. Then entered Satan into Judas, surnamed Iscariot, being of the number of the 12, and he went his way and communed with the chief priests and captains how he might betray him unto them, and they were glad, and covenanted to give him money. And he promised and sought opportunity to betray him unto them in the absence of the multitude. So this is how sneaky they were going to do it when nobody was around. Okay, so they could still, basically have their cake and eat it too. Get rid of someone who was a threat. Okay, but do it so nobody could see them do it. That way the people wouldn't, be angry at them and, look at them sideways and undereyed. They would be able to say, well, gosh, we don't know what happened. Oh, wow. And, many of us have been victims to that, where they sit up here and do this sneaky stuff in the shadows, wearing masks, got somebody up in your circle of friends, if you want to dare use that word friend, and then they're sitting up there, listening to everything you're saying, bird dogging this and that, this person, who's coming, who's going, who do you like, who do you trust, what's your favorite food, everything. And then lo and behold, things start to go sideways, weird and hinky, and you can't seem to figure out why. And yet here's the guy, the closest one to you, the one that you let hold your money. Okay, now you have to be close to someone in this day and age. If you're going to let them hold your money, that would be the equivalent, I think, for us in this time period is if you were to give someone your PIN number to your bank card. Okay, now, I think that is apropos. Think of the person who you would trust to have the PIN number to your ATM card, meaning your bank account. Is there anyone that you know that you would do that with? No, see, of course, I'm talking to victims of gang-stalking. So most of us, hopefully, are going to say, no, ain't nobody. No, there is no one. But every once in a while, some of us maybe, we do have someone, great auntie this, godmother this, baby brother, baby sister. You'll give her the number, the PIN number. Maybe you could trust her. It happens, and hey, man, all right, ain't nothing wrong with that. But for the majority of us, the answer would be no. There is no way in the world I'm giving anybody the PIN number to my ATM card. Okay, but this was a situation where this dude right here, this brother right here, snuck around, got in cahoots, got in good standing with the wicked. And again, as it says, they sought how they might kill him. So he was in on it. He was in on it from that time to the bitter end to kill our master and king. Okay? But let's go into the book of John. See, this is, I was going to try to stop this at the 20-minute mark. But, when we look at the life of our master and king, his life is a blueprint for us, which we, those of us who are servants or who desire to be servants, we try to follow it as close as possible. It's impossible to follow it exactly to the letter because we know that he was a man without sin, without blemish, without spot, and that is not our case. We have sins, we have flaws, we have weaknesses, okay? Which is why it's easy for them to target us. It's easy for them to get us in these, to get us backed into a corner. But they couldn't do that to the Messiah because he was without sin. He had no flaws. He was perfect, okay? He was that unblemished lamb, okay? Which is why ultimately they had to lie. They had to really, literally use gaslighting. And remember, what is gaslighting? As it was explained to me, that's where you take someone's actions, someone's words, and you literally twist and present them in a negative light, okay, to defame them, to decry them. Okay, and that's basically what they ultimately had to do. They had to get someone, to say, well, we heard him say that he could tear down the temple in 3 days and bring it back together. And he said he was the son of the Most High. And, just took it and twisted it and then, oh man, well, you know what happened. You know the story. Okay, but that's ultimately what they had to do because he was without blemish. He was without spot. He was without sin. So we will never be able to follow exactly in his footsteps. Okay, but his life is a blueprint that we can refer to, that we can try as best as we can, okay, to live by it, okay? But so with that in mind, we take our time. We're not going to rush through this. If this ends up being a part 3 and a part 4 and a part 5, then so be it. And I hope that those of you who are grasping that this is a spiritual war that we're in. It's manifesting on the physical plane. I mean, yeah, they're using technology. They're literally using weapons against us. They're using cars, color coding. They're using, articles of clothing. I mean, it is physical. They're on the job doing the workplace mobbing. They're hacking, computers. They're giving hang-up phone calls and weird, crazy phone calls in street theater. So it is very physical. There is a tangible element to this. But this is a manifestation of something that is actually, that has its origins in the physical plane. And what is it we learn from the scriptures? One of the things that we learn is that it says that the steps of the righteous man are ordered. So this is something that this is man, but we know that means man and woman. We know that it is that this is something that for many of us it has been ordained to happen. And remember what I said in earlier episodes, that this is to try us so that we know who we are. The Most High knows who we are, but He needs us to know. That makes us a more confident, a more willing servant, where we can speak boldly, where we can stand up in the face of all of this persecution. But if we don't know, if we truly don't know, what good are we? How can we be a servant? How can we be a soldier in the army of the Most High if we truly don't know and we're just really not sure? Okay, He knows because He made us. He made us, and He basically put us in family lineages to make sure that we would have those certain experiences that would give us, okay, the growth and the development that we would need in order to walk this emotional, spiritual landscape and not back down. Okay, fall a couple of times, but be able to pick ourselves up. Finally learning to depend on Him to pick us up, then we become better servants. That's basically what this is about. But it's been ordered. The steps of the righteous are ordered. Okay, so He knows this. Okay, but we are the ones that have to go through this so that we know, so that we have confidence. Okay, and so one of the ways that we get the confidence is we know that, one, we're not the only ones who are dealing with this. We are not alone. Okay. 2, we know that our Savior, our Redeemer, who we look for, okay, who we put our hope for, okay, He went through this too. So we know that He's not looking down at us going, what in the world is going on with her? Man, why she acting like this? What's going on? No, He knows exactly what's happening. He knows, and He knows that it's only a matter of time before we start to look around, get our footing, be able to look through the masks or behind the masks of the people who are infiltrating us, stalking us, lying to us, gaslighting, hacking into our computers, using identity theft. After a while, we get it, okay? But in the meantime and in between time, okay, we keep reading our scriptures, we keep fasting, we keep praying. Okay, now here's one here. This is just a brief one. And therefore did the Yehudim persecute Yahushua and sought to slay him. Okay, and this was they came up with a reason, because every once in a while they give you a reason. Somebody might say, hey man, why you messing with her like that? Why you messing with a brother like that, man? Y'all been messing with him. I've been here for 2 months straight, and y'all been just messing with that dude, and what's up with that? And so they have to say something. Well, look at what they said. This is why they're doing this to him. And therefore did the Yehudim persecute Yahushua and sought to slay him, because he had done these things on the Sabbath day. And what was it he did? He healed somebody. Set them free from a debilitating illness. Freedom. Oh, well, he got to go. He done helped somebody. He done lifted somebody up. Relieve them of their pain. We can't have that. He can't be doing good deeds on the Sabbath. Get him. Okay, you see? Okay, but that's what they did. Okay? Let's look at, and here we go. That's verse 16. Verse 17, but Yahushua answered them, my Father worketh hitherto, and I work. He said, so there it goes. That was where he was at with it. He did not back down. You see, because he knew. And that's what's important for us, is to know. But we have to get that knowledge. We have to go through this. We have to literally, as I was saying in the previous podcast, we have to literally learn to just sit with the long suffering and get the experience. Okay, verse 18. Therefore, the Yehudim sought the more to kill him. Okay, see, now it's now he got a little come up in him. Oh, now he's going to say he's the son of the Most High. Oh, well, now we really got to get him now. Okay, you see? But, man, it's all good. It's all good. We know that he stood up to them, that he did what was right, because he understood something that they didn't know. Because they were, as I said earlier, they're children of disobedience, blinded, had no clue. No clue whatsoever. Had no clue that what they were doing was going to be recorded and etched in eternity, that it would be penned, that it would be gathered and collected into the scriptures, for future generations to refer back to as a way to find strength to help them in their walk, that what he was doing, what they were doing, that everything that they were doing, that it was going to be used for other sheep that were going to be in his fold. He knew this. They didn't know this. He knew they didn't know that they were literally taking part in the torment, the torture, the crucifixion of the being that had literally helped create their souls. They didn't know any of that, because we know that all things were created by the Father through the Son. They didn't know that, but he did. And that makes him even more mighty. That makes him even more special, because he had a love for them that they did not have for him. And we go back, as I said earlier, one of the greatest, what did he say? Forgive them, for they know not what they do. He had a compassion and a love that many of us, there's just no way for us to have it, but we need it. And as hard as it is to cultivate it, because the gaslighting and the color coding and the isolation and, just all of it gets really hard when you have people that are doing this to you. But we stay cognizant of the fact that they are children of disobedience, that they are blinded. Okay, even though some of them, and I'm talking about all of them across the board, even those who are wolves in sheep's clothing, who are literally, some of them are, sitting up here, in our community pretending to be targeted. Okay, and maybe on some little level, they are being targeted, okay? But they're still able to lash out and doing their own little type of devilry, okay? And then slither back in. Oh man. Oh man. I am telling you, I have, but experience, but we learn, but we forgive them because they're children of disobedience, and they truly, in the end, they don't understand that there are eternal ramifications for what they are doing, eternal ramifications. But that's what also plays a part in keeping us on this road, because we know that this is temporary. This isn't going to last forever, but the way we walk this out will determine our place in eternity. And with that, I say shalom, and thank you for listening to this episode of this fiery trial, brought to you by artisticministry.net. Shalom.
His foundation is in the holy mountain. Glorious things are spoken of thee, O city of the Almighty. He's the living legend of this Iowa, conquering lion of the tribe of Judah. Christ in his kingly character, Christ in his kingly character, Christ in his kingly character, Christ in his kingly character. Many know the truth and hide it, many feeling the vibes and try to avoid it, but the truth must be